You don't talk much. Not because you have nothing to say, but because somewhere along the way you learned that silence was safer. You learned to read rooms before entering them, to soften your voice before it could become a problem, to shrink emotions before they made others uncomfortable. And people praise you for it. They call you calm, mature, easy to be around. But what they don't see is the cost. The paradox is this: the very behavior that once kept you safe is now the reason you feel invisible. Silence once protected you from chaos, criticism, or emotional unpredictability. But now it protects everyone else from ever truly knowing you. You are not quiet because it's your nature. You are quiet because your nervous system learned that expression had consequences. And slowly, without realizing it, you replaced authenticity with acceptance. This is the dark truth no one talks about. Quiet people don't suffer loudly. They suffer privately, efficiently, and alone. And because they don't demand attention, the world assumes they don't need care. From a psychological perspective, chronic quietness is rarely a personality trait alone. It is often a trauma adaptation. Let's name what's happening beneath the surface. Emotional neglect, not abuse, not shouting, but absence. Emotional neglect occurs when a child's internal world, feelings, fears, excitement, is consistently unnoticed or dismissed. No one taught you how to feel, so you learned how to manage. Hypervigilance. Quiet people are often exquisitely attuned to emotional shifts. They sense tone changes, micro-expressions, the unspoken. Their nervous system lives in a low-grade state of alertness, constantly scanning for threat. Silence becomes a strategy. If I don't disturb the environment, I won't be harmed by it. Avoidant or anxious avoidant attachment connection feels dangerous. Dependence feels risky. Need feels shameful. So you become self-contained. Low maintenance, emotionally economical. Default mode network, DMN. Overactivation. Quiet people live inside their minds. The DMN, associated with rumination, self-reflection, and identity, becomes overactive. Thought replaces expression. Analysis replaces experience. You don't process life out loud, you process it alone. These mechanisms shape identity. They sculpt the self around one core belief: my needs are too much. There is a specific grief that quiet people carry. It is not the grief of what happened, but the grief of what never did. The conversations you rehearsed but never spoke. The boundaries you felt but never enforced. The versions of yourself that never entered the room. Carl Jung warned that what we do not make conscious appears in our lives as fate. Quiet people often mistake their fate for personality. But the cost is existential. You trade truth for harmony, expression for belonging, presence for peace. Seneca wrote that the greatest obstacle to living is expectancy. Quiet people live in constant expectancy, waiting for permission to be themselves. Rilke understood this well. Perhaps everything terrible is in its deepest being something helpless that wants help. Quiet suffering is terrible because it is invisible. There is no language for it, only endurance. You don't fear being judged, you fear being seen and still not chosen. So you disappear first. These childhood adaptations don't disappear, they mature. Quiet children become adults who struggle with boundaries. You tolerate discomfort longer than others. You overextend because saying no feels like abandonment. Underestimate their own needs. You don't know what you want, only what others expect. Excel quietly but feel unrecognized. Your competence is assumed, not celebrated. You don't advocate for yourself, then wonder why no one does. Experience emotional burnout. Suppressed emotion doesn't vanish. It somatizes. Fatigue, tension, dissociation. Feel lonely. Even in relationships, you are present but not fully known. loved but not fully seen. Confuse self-sacrifice with morality. You equate goodness with disappearance. These are not flaws. They are survival strategies that outlived their usefulness. Awareness is not betrayal. Unlearning is not selfish. It is reclamation. Healing does not mean becoming loud. It means becoming real. It means teaching your nervous system that expression is no longer a threat. Start gently. Inner child work. Speak to the part of you that learned silence. Shadow work. Acknowledge the anger, grief, and desire you buried. Nervous system regulation. Safety precedes change. Practice soft assertion, not dominance. Presence. Let yourself take up space without justification, because the goal was never to survive quietly. As Jung said, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. And this is the final truth. The goal is not to be fixed, but to become whole. If this resonated, you are not alone. Share this with someone who learned to disappear. And if you want more deep psychological explorations like this, subscribe. Your voice was never the problem. The silence was learned.